Welcome to episode 207 of the weekly Shared Security Show. And joining me this week are today's two best internet crime fighters, co-hosts, Scott Wright and Kevin Johnson.
I'm Velma.
I guess I'm Louise.
Wait a minute,
no, Velma, not Velma.
Yeah,
I was doing a Scooby-Doo reference.
Oh, Velma. Okay. Well,
do you guys have Scooby-Doo in Canada?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's called Scooby-Doo, hey.
From way back. Scooby-Doo, eh? No,
Scooby treats, eh?
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, yeah.
Do they have Scooby treats at Tim Hortons? That's the big question.
Scooby snacks. I don't think so yet. Although they might have them during National Dog Week. I can't remember.
Oh,
I did enjoy how Scott just casually corrected what you called them. You caught that?
I totally threw that up. Yeah.
Like, they have Scooby treats? Yeah, Scooby snacks. They have those.
You're so harsh.
Meddling kids.
Yeah. Oh, those damn kids. Yeah. So
I would have got away with it too.
Damn, you did that well.
that
brought me back to my childhood. That one quote was like, oh my gosh.
Yes. So we have some interesting stories as always.
We found them
this
interesting.
Week. Yes, and hopefully all of you find these interesting as well. But we're going to start with a really fascinating story about a phone scam that is specifically targeting psychologists.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So do you want me to take this one, Tom?
Yeah, Scott.
Awesome.
Why don't you take it?
Let's just remember that these kinds of scams are social engineering tricks, right? That psychologically manipulate people to get them to do something they wouldn't do. And so what kind of elaborate, complex scheme can literally take down the most qualified people who should be able to spot this, right? Well, that brings us to our brand new show segment called Aware Much? So we're gonna
much.
Aware much. We're gonna try and do this professionally, but of course, you know us. Anyway, Kevin and Tom are welcome to chime in, but I've kind of got a bit of a narrative for this story, so it'll be fun. This segment, I should say, is brought to you by ClickArmor. You're not seeing the usual video ad for ClickArmor. But ClickArmor is the gamified awareness platform that helps your team avoid phishing and social engineering scams. So in every show, we're going to be highlighting some security awareness issue that you should know about from now on. And here goes our first Aware Much segment. But here's what's been happening with psychologists, according to an article in Psychology Today, just this past October. Not today. It was October. Anyway, a phone call to a therapist informs them that they've missed a court appearance related to one of their clients, and they're subject to a penalty of jail or a fine. And in some cases, there's an alternative offered in lieu of visiting a police station where they could, the therapist could be required to do a remote strip search. I don't know what that's all about, but I'm not sure what they would be trying to verify.
It's not good.
It doesn't sound good. It might sound unbelievable, especially when they're targeting psychologists, but the victims apparently claim that they've been in like a trance, unable to disengage with the scammer, which sounds pretty interesting, especially when this is published by Psychology Today. But the key seems to be that the caller speaks very professionally with an authoritative tone, and they strategically know when to be firm and when to be supportive with the victim. And it seems to somehow manipulate their emotional responses. And on top of that, they get caller ID that spoofs the local law enforcement, and they hear background noises of a police station, which is amazing, like how elaborate they've gone. But it can cost people up to $6,000 in terms of what they're demanding. So when they talked to one of the psychologists that was actually hit with this, they, under anonymity, I believe, kind of revealed what it was like to go through this. And they said it was like my brain was being hijacked. Even though she knew the processes, that your brain was going through to try and handle this stuff. So it kind of demonstrates the emotional, the fear that can be triggered when somebody can actually just come up with a new situation for you that you hadn't really expected. So counterintuitively, though, the attack creates increasingly complex tasks that seem to cause the victim to complete them without questioning or resisting the requests. And interestingly, psychologists might actually be afraid to report these incidents out of humiliation. They don't want their reputation to be damaged, that they were tricked by somebody to do this. So interestingly, they say, the things that we can maybe do to defend ourselves, or that they can do as psychologists, anybody should be able to kind of practice this, which is really very different from what we typically teach people about social engineering. Watch out for this, watch out for that. They said, when you're able to recognize the scam, and apparently the psychologist that was doing this was able to recognize that what was happening, but she just couldn't turn it off. She couldn't disengage. But she said that you can try to think of something that evokes a deliberative reasoning, like eating a snack. And I guess it's something like you need to create something from your own thoughts that you can focus on rather than focusing on what the caller is saying once you recognize that you're being tricked. And that allowed her to buy some time to think independently, call for help. And I think that kind of makes sense. Certainly not something you would think of, right? So if psychologists can be tricked by this kind of a clever scammer, think about your coworkers that are not trained in your team, right? So here's my little pitch from ClickArmor. Social engineering is becoming such a huge problem for businesses. It's costing real financial losses. So we really need a different way to approach awareness training for employees. Traditional methods don't seem to work really very well, as employees don't engage and they really don't learn how to face threat scenarios very well. That's why ClickArmor uses gamification to engage employees with interactive exercises so they can learn to practice dealing with situations they might encounter in real life and learn to avoid them. And we've shown some consistent results around phishing that show people on average are improving their ability to spot phishing messages by 50%. We also have a course called Fakes and Frauds, which exactly addresses the issue of social engineering, teaches people about common phone scams, text messaging scams, and even email with what I call social simulations. So if people would like to learn more about ClickArmor's gamified training for phishing and social engineering, visit clickarmor.ca/sharedsec, SHAREDSEC. And you can learn more and get a 10% discount from ClickArmor's list price for annual awareness training subscriptions. So your team will love it, and you'll see good success by reducing your risks.
Nice.
So any thoughts or comments, guys?
When you guys sent over this link to this article, it brought something full circle for me that I don't know if you guys know about. My first job, I call it that. I had a job for a couple of days, but my first job was at McDonald's. And
didn't we talk about this?
Back in 1992, after I left McDonald's, so I was not involved, there was actually a scam that happened that this person called a McDonald's and convinced the manager that they were a cop. And there was a suspicion that this young blonde, which was a very vague description, but the manager, it must be so-and-so on the front register. And they brought this young girl in the back, and the caller got the manager to strip search the young girl.
Oh my God. Wow.
And then do worse tricks and things, right, just weird stuff. And it actually happened something like 70 times from 1992 until 2004. And in 2004 they caught a guy, and that was supposedly doing it. Now my understanding is they only proved that he had done one of them, right? But after he was caught, the call stopped, and they were calling Applebee's and McDonald's and Burger King's, and I say funny, not haha funny, but the funny part to me was a lot of the calls were collect calls. And so the person would pick up the phone at the McDonald's or the restaurant, and the caller would say, it would be a collect call. They would accept the call. And then the caller would say, "Oh, I'm a cop," or "I'm the district manager for Applebee's," or whatever. And in a couple of cases, they actually, this would go on for hours, like your story, where it was the guy was on the phone with the person for hours, and they would actually swap out with employees. Okay, that person is needed to go on the register because of the dinner rush. Let's bring somebody else
End of my shift, yeah.
Right. And it wasn't until like one of the managers that fell for this went out and said, okay, I need to work on the shift. So they got the maintenance guy to go in the back. And the maintenance guy was like, what are you talking about? There's no way I'm doing that. Like, no, I'm not going to have this young girl do jumping jacks naked, which is an example, not something I made up. And like at the time, I remember talking to people and people were like, oh, yeah, but you know, people who work at McDonald's or people who work at fast food, they're not that smart. They're not that right. So that's not something that would happen anywhere else. It's obviously made up. So hearing that psychologists, trained people are falling for this direct, and I'm not one of the people that thought, oh, they're stupid, that's why they fell for it. But like that just blows my mind that it's back to this idea.
And it's really amazing to me now that you say that it happened since 1992. I mean, somebody's been successful at exploiting that weakness in our brains. And when I first was sent this story by somebody, it was actually not the Psychology Today one. It was from like 2 years ago. And so this has happened. It's not just a new thing for psychologists.
Yeah, it's nuts. And like the way they talked about it, that when they were interviewed, I watched this, I don't know if it was YouTube or a TV show or something like that. They were talking to the people and the people were like, look, I knew what was happening was wrong. But the authority that was being presented to me was okay. I guess I don't know, and right, it was just mind-boggling. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't fall for something like that. It blows my mind that people fall for stuff like that, right? Like it's just fascinating.
Yeah, they said that the person that was doing this was coming across as a voice of authority, so very militaristic, and had a forceful tone that just triggers something in people's brains to just comply, right, to whatever they're asking. It's fascinating.
Cool.
So well, thanks for that sponsors segment, Scott from ClickArmor. Much appreciated.
You're welcome. Hope we can keep up the momentum and doing good stories like that.
Yeah, absolutely. What does it mean to go off the grid? Well, for most of us that are constantly relying on our phones, tablets, and laptops, it means shutting them off and doing some other activity like enjoying nature or spending time with friends and family. Now, you're probably a lot like me and struggle with turning off or putting down that smartphone because we always feel the need to be constantly connected. Listen, it's hard to go off the grid, but the good news is that there are products that can help. So that's why I recommend using a silent Faraday bag, which can instantly block all wireless signals, quickly taking you off the grid and giving you back control of your wireless devices. Check out their full product line at slnt.com. And because you listen to this podcast, make sure you use discount code SHAREDSECURITY at checkout to receive 10% off your order. So moving on to our next story. I was fascinated. I saw this on Reddit, and the only phrase that caught my attention was "all my apes gone."
It's a new internet meme.
Yes, and I'm instantly thinking this is a meme, but no, this is not a meme.
If you ever want Tom to click something, just title the link, All My Apes Are Gone.
All my apes gone. Yes.
Not even an R, right? All my apes gone.
So thieves, they stole a gallery owner's multi-million-dollar NFT collection.
Multi-million
of apes. And the owner had tweeted, "I have been hacked. All my apes gone. This just sold. Please help me." And essentially a phishing scam had drained his Ethereum wallet of 15 of these NFTs valued at $2.2 million. That is $1 million, by the way.
I don't get this.
Millions.
Yeah.
So 4 apes from the Bored Ape Yacht Club collection were stolen.
I have so many comments, and they're all rude.
So let's start with yours. What comments do you have?
I just laughed at all of the follow-up things. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this deregulated thing got stolen. There should be a government agency to protect us. Or there should be a law. And, Why won't the authorities step in and help me protect my made-up artwork that people can right-click and download? And
And I thought it was kind of funny that he was consoled by the fact that they were locking the account, and it turns out, I guess, it's not locked for anybody that's outside that ecosystem, right?
Yeah. That's it. Like that's like saying, you know what? I locked my front door. I mean, I left the money outside, but I locked the door. This is one of those things where, and we talked about this. This is actually the timing is.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we just did the monthly show about Web3 and the nature, and I think that this is. Look, I'm not saying cryptocurrencies and blockchain and NFTs are stupid. I'm not. But I think that this is the sign of if you don't understand what you're getting into, figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is the aspect of this guy crying to the public, crying as in yelling, not tears, but crying out to the public of, hey, my stuff got stolen. Somebody needs to help me, without understanding what they were doing. And then furthermore, proudly talking about how, oh, we locked it. It's protected now. I'm getting some of this stuff back, without really understanding, like, what is it? OpenSea had to come out and do something that said, oh, no, look, we don't have any ability to lock this stuff anywhere else.
Right.
We stopped it in art, which is good. I'm glad they did that, right? Like, but yeah, I don't know, man. To me, this isn't a new attack. There's a new technology that people don't understand, so let's abuse the ignorance. Let's abuse the lack of understanding. And ignorance is not an insult.
Yeah.
Ignorance just means you don't know.
I was going to say, like, to me, this is scary because, and it might highlight my ignorance of what's gone on in crypto since I left Entrust many years ago. But I was immersed in crypto, public key crypto, for 4 years as a product manager, and I kind of get NFT, and I can sort of see what, how it is secured from a crypto point of view, but I'm still trying to figure out why a digital signature on a document that can easily be copied is worth so much. Like, isn't it just a weak form of digital rights management? Like,
but keep in mind that when we say it's worth so much, that's why I did the air quotes thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's worth $3.8 million or whatever the number is in Ethereum.
Correct.
which is a value that hasn't been cashed out. To me, this is very much the Beanie Baby crap.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Thing. That Beanie Baby is worth. I don't know the people. I'm old. The Beanie Babies were these stuffed animals. They were little, and for a while there, it was nuts. Like, oh my gosh, did you get the dinosaur Beanie Baby? No, but I got the penguin BB or whatever.
I got dozens of them.
Yeah, and people would buy these things, and then other people would buy them from them, and one would sell for $100, and everybody was like, "Man, I've got that one, so it's worth $100." No, it's not. It's worth whatever you can sell it for.
But it's also a physical thing, though, right? I mean, so I'm grappling a bit with the digital versus physical part of this, because I understand that a digital signature on a transaction is very valuable, and on a contract it's very valuable. But on a piece of graphical, like a document or like an image or a video, I don't really see, because that video itself can be copied almost exactly in terms of its fidelity. Right? If you're looking at the Mona Lisa original and you look at a copy of it, you can appreciate the original because it's got all the fine textures of the paint and everything. The copy is definitely not going to be that good quality. But in a digital document or token, it can be exactly copied. And just because you've put a digital signature on one of them that happened to be the first one, it's not like the same electrons are always going to be there, right?
Oh no, it is. That when they digitally signed it locks.
That's what I'm missing. Okay,
it's on the blockchain.
Okay.
So
I think it's the same thing as what's the value of your website, right? How many people have paid millions of dollars for a domain name, right? I think that I'm not saying you're wrong. I actually happen to agree with you that I don't see the value. But here's the thing. If you can get somebody else to give you the money for it,
it's whatever,
worth that.
It's
amount.
whatever somebody will pay.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
that's
the
Beanie Baby problem. Yeah.
Right. And that's where I think the problem is with these headlines. They're like, man, these apes are worth $87 trillion. It's like, no. The dude bought it with cryptocurrency that he didn't cash out, and the other side didn't cash it out. So no actual money transferred.
Yeah. I have one other question. And that is the difference between the soft wallet and the hard wallet, and why the soft wallet was vulnerable. Right.
Well, a soft wallet is made out of leather that's been weared, and it's very flexible. And a hard wallet is actually molded plastic. And see, this is my soft wallet.
You could drop it from the top of an apartment building. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, go on.
I'm assuming it's because it's the private keys that should never be copied that always reside on the hard wallet.
The wallet that this person had their cryptocurrency in was in their browser. Okay. Right. So I think they were using MetaMask, which is a Firefox extension.
Okay.
Which through a phishing attack could be easily manipulated by clicking a link and then sending, making a transaction in cryptocurrency on your behalf. Right.
And from my crypto days, though, if your private keys that you use to sign something are locked away, inaccessible, off the internet, then anything else is okay to be public and copied and isn't really necessarily worth much without the private keys, right?
Which we talked about that. We did that episode on cryptocurrency, and which is why the recommendation is a hard wallet that, is not connected. It's only connected to your computer when you're making a transaction or moving money in and out, or a crypto in and out. And it's on a USB key or, not attached to a computer.
That was why, very often an RSA token was considered a more secure. Yeah. Because it was a physical token, not a piece of software running on your computer that
could be corrupted or
could grab or whatever. And I'm not talking against LastPass or whatever, but I like Authy, and
I do too.
I'm having a heck of a time migrating though from Google Authenticator to Authy, right, or LastPass.
That's because Google on purpose does that. So you can stay in their ecosystem.
Yeah.
But
the way I had to do it, and I was forced to do it because a phone died. I had a phone die, and I literally, the ones I had backup codes to, I had to go authenticate, turn off two-factor, turn it back on, to move that forward.
Right.
So we'll move on from NFTs.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll have more fun debate about the worthiness.
Do we have anything that Kevin
NFT.
could comment on?
I never comment on anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
He'll definitely comment on this next story for sure.
The Book of Boba Fett is awesome.
Yes, it is. I've watched the first episode and it was very good. Thanks.
The second one is better.
Did you watch Don't Look Up yet on Netflix?
No, I have not.
I did.
I have not.
I did.
Yeah. What'd you think, Scott?
I thought it was pretty well done. I mean, there were some, I think, sort of light moments which were funny right at the very end, which I won't give away. But
without any spoilers.
Yeah.
So, spoilers.
But isn't it like that's exactly what would happen in real life? That's all I'm going to say.
And I
see. This is why I don't know if I want to watch it, because I watch it.
You do want to,
but we didn't. Did we ever talk about what it's a metaphor of? Like
I don't think we did.
Daisies.
No, I mean the fact that the Earth is about to be hit by an asteroid, and all of the social dynamics around the responses and activities that are going on within the science community are pretty much equivalent to what is going on now with climate change, right? I was told it's a metaphor for climate change and how society is dealing with that.
Oh, I thought we said no spoilers. I haven't watched it yet.
Well, that's
not
a spoiler.
He's making his own.
No, I'm kidding.
It's a little bit of insight.
So moving on from the movie segment of the show. So this is another. This caught my attention just in terms of real estate websites being skimmed, or a skimmer, right? Like credit card skimmer. I guess that's how we could call it.
A software skimmer.
Supply chain attack. So 100 real estate websites had fallen victim to having malware essentially injected as skimmers to steal personal information from website visitors. This is definitely not an old attack, but I bring it up because again, we have JavaScript, our friend that we all know and love, right, Kevin? That was used to, and this attack, I guess it's got a name now. I guess it's called form jacking. Is that?
Oh, can we
like
stop giving
the official
names
term?
to stuff?
Well, that's why I bring it up. It's fun to discuss.
It would just make the
but
podcast that much longer, though, Kevin.
yeah.
No, it wouldn't. They compromised the build environment. They added
Yeah.
code to a JavaScript.
Yep.
It's form jacking. No, it's not.
Yeah. But it's another, the reason they call it supply chain attack, because this propagated to the other sites that, to your point, this code was inserted at a certain point that could be distributed, essentially. So
and in this case, my understanding is that the article talks about 100 other websites, 100 other sites. They're all the same company.
Correct.
Right? This one realty company, they have multiple locations, they have affiliates, they have all this kind of stuff, and they there's lots of these programs like I want to go build an Etsy shop, right? And I know that Etsy is quite different from real estate, but right, and Etsy spins out of an interface for me, and so if you attacked Etsy, or in this case, what is it, Southby's Realty, and injected code into that web application, every single time they spin out a new version, it includes that code. And that is absolutely the definition of a supply chain attack, in my opinion.
This could happen with any B2C organization, right, that uses software for their franchises. So, the headquarters pushes out software to all its franchise organizations, and all their local visitors get infected.
Here's the biggest problem for this organization, is that the people who are using, because you go after their website, right? The very first few houses they list are in the millions of dollars, right? The fourth house they list is $34 million, right? Yeah. So if you're getting a credit card, that's the one you want. You want the credit card detail. I'm not saying you want to steal credit cards, but if you're gonna steal credit cards, get the one that has a $34 million limit. But I know it doesn't work that way. But this is very similar to what happened to the airlines. Delta had that breach.
Same thing.
It wasn't Delta that was breached. It was the chat system that they used, and then it got injected.
Well, all the travel agents then would probably get it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in this case, one of the things that, and it drives me crazy, I don't want to make fun of the Hacker News website, but can I make fun of the Hacker News website for a while? Just because the skimmer sends its data to to a CloudFront address does not mean that it was, quote, targeting Amazon CloudFront. That's a public service to host things. Yeah, and the reason I think that that's important to understand is not because I want to defend Amazon, even though I love the Kindle Unlimited, but the reason I think that's so important is it hides or obfuscates where the actual problem is. The problem is not that the attacker used CloudFront to dump the data they were stealing. The problem is that the developer, the build system, the whatever, was vulnerable, got compromised, got hit, right? And in many cases we've seen in the past, I don't know about this one, where they actually socially engineered, going back to that, right? People are our weakest link. People suck. They got code injected into the build. They could have used Google Drive for all we care, or Pastebin for that matter, right? Personally, I've always thought about, a really great way to attack is to send have I been pwned a breach list and have them notify all these people that they were breached, which lets you validate their email addresses. But neither here nor there. we're not that. It's very important to understand where the attack is, because, and the reason I say that is, if you read this article, what I took away from this article was that Amazon had a problem. And if I was an executive or a project manager or somebody who didn't know, I'm now going to go, okay, we need to move away from CloudFront because that's the problem. It's like, no, 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 no. I'm not telling you shouldn't move away. Maybe you should, but not because of this. This is why we have to understand where we're getting our code. In the case of these real estate agents, I guarantee you that if you go and talk to those 100 website owners and say to them, hey, did you know you were running this malicious code?
No idea.
One, the answer is no. Two, they're not going to know what to do about it. They're going to, and I want to say this from having worked with Tom Liston before, and Liston, not Eston. Close. It got very confusing when the three of us would talk.
I know.
But we went and we were actually Tom's done this for years, notifying website owners that they've been compromised. And what he runs into with cases like this is that the website owner says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have anything to do with this. I didn't build this. They built it for me, right? We need to understand where the flaw is and where the problem was, in my opinion. And I like JavaScript.
Yeah. It's an interesting, I guess, from a preventive, like, you're a user. How do you know that this is happening? And you don't, unless you had JavaScript disabled, which means the site wouldn't work and you wouldn't be able to do anything on the internet, right? So I think and this happened with MageCart too. That was for a long time running. That was a skimming attack. In fact, I had a credit card compromise. Yeah, WooCommerce did too.
The same way.
Yeah, I got compromised. I had my credit card compromised on a website through MageCart, and I know this because the company notified me. This was weeks later after I noticed fraudulent charges on my card. But I mean, I had no idea. You just don't know.
You guys are lucky in the States. They tell you where it got compromised. I've had credit cards where the bank calls me and says, sorry, your card's been compromised. We need to replace it.
The bank didn't tell you.
Oh, well, where did you find
I was going to say, no, the bank, we don't have that luck. Most of the time, we don't know.
Yeah, okay.
The place that was compromised, the business,
called you.
They will tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, they sent me an email.
All right.
But so good stuff. Good topics this week. This was fun.
Yeah, cool.
And so I think that's all we have. But thank you both, as always.
Thank you, Tom.
Internet superheroes. That crime fighters
will live another day.
No capes, but tapes. There's the new tagline.
Oh man!
All right, guys.
I have so many things.
We'll save all of Kevin's comments for the next episode. But
yes.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will talk to everyone next week.
Thanks all. Bye.
That's all for this week's show. Visit our website, sharedsecurity.net, for all previous episodes and to sign up for our email newsletter. Looking for Shared Security merch? Be sure to check out our online store at store.sharedsecurity.net. Don't forget, you can always find us on Twitter at SharedSec, and please hit that like and subscribe button below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.